infrastructure and transport are the main things. I'd like to see an easing in policy to allow people to build their first-time home. I'd like to see a change in one of the policies they have for funding for their houses. The government now have a funding policy that they'll give 50 to 70,000 towards your house to retrofit it, and a larger sum for more deeper works. You borrow the money off your bank and you pay your interest on it. And if you do everything right and you succeed, they will give you your money back again, but not the interest on the money that you have to pay. And hopefully everything works out. It may not. I've traveled around Europe and I know that the policies in France are you can borrow over 100,000 euros from the state at 0% interest. So it's a mortgage from the state to the people. That mortgage idea makes you spend your money wisely, and you don't have to spend it in any particular person or service. You can spend it across the spectrum, and then you will gain as a saving because you don't have to go to special bodies. So I'd like to see that as a change. I'd like to see the change.
Sorry, Joseph, again, you mentioned about agriculture. You have a farm and you know much of agriculture. So looking forward, again, what would your message be to the rural areas, but also the towns? We all know in West Clare, they're all rural towns, market towns, just for farming. So what are your thoughts on that going forward?
My thought on that is that the spending for the farmers is quite rural, and it's worth 300 million to the farmers and it's then worth 300 million to the local people. So I'd support the farmers as best I can to make sure they have a good price for what they produce, and encourage them to help out their siblings and family members to sustain a good income for the area, keep jobs in the area, keeps pubs, shops, any enterprise up and running and service as best they can.
I suppose now, Joseph, we do know that the EU and the various schemes. We do know last year all the MEPs in the Irish South area, which is Munster, Clare area, part of Ireland South, all voted for this rewetting, which is, maybe you could fully explain it, but it seems that the EU wanted to flood land that was drained and productive land. All the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael MEPs voted for it. We also know this huge bureaucracy for the various schemes and for farmers, and it's taken up a tremendous amount of time. So would you have any thoughts on that, or what are your opinion on that?
Yes, well, I suppose if you compare Ireland to Holland, it's quite unusual. In Holland, they want to take 20% of the land back from the ocean, while in Ireland, they want to flood 30 and 40% of the land to re-wet it. So clearly we're in the one Europe with two radically different policies. Our policy from government is to flood us, and their policy in Holland is to save themselves from the ocean. But the policies here are anti-local enterprise, anti-farmer, and they want, I would imagine this is a land grab they're looking for, to make land unproductive, so food won't be for supply and for sale in the volumes and manner in which we would be used to. Also, that does tie into the Mercer Agreement, whereby Europe imports beef and poultry from South America, and then Europe exports chemicals, cars, and some industrial products. So they did a trade. They want to do a trade deal with them, and they want to basically screw the farmer. That would be that in a nutshell. And across Europe, you can see how the farmers are such civil unrest. They're protesting night and day. They did it for over a month and a half there, and they have created change.
Sorry, just a question. We know traditionally in West Clare, whether it is in the local election or in a general election, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael traditionally over the years and generations have done very well. Do the people of West Clare, and not only the farmers in the rural areas, but the people living in the towns and villages, know or realise that every single Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael MEP voted for this rewetting to flood productive grassland that farmers would have spent thousands, tens of thousands draining and making into productive. That the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael MEPs fully have voted for that. And in your opinion, should the people of West Clare, the electors, be told that the Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael parties are actually appear to be totally anti-farmer and anti-rural Ireland? Or what's your opinion on that?
I think voting for Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael is much like a religion to a lot of people. It's what they do every Sunday. and probably what they'll do for every other Sunday. Should they change? Of course they should. The next generation would change, would vote for something different, but all of those, including so many of my friends, immigrate out of this country and leave and don't come back. So the politics, I suppose, I'd have a level of hope for change, but I know that they're so indoctrinated, like a religious belief, that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are there for your good, that they probably won't. So my vote would be aimed at someone that wants to see a change, wants to see an improvement. And the ones that are indoctrinated into Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, you can't do a whole lot for them. They'll always vote that way.
Yeah. Just a small bit about fishing, and you mentioned you're from Quilty, your native place. We know down on the west coast of Clare and even down across the west coast of Ireland, we have huge, our territorial waters, the fishing rights are at a huge amount of fishing. And yes, our fishing industry again has been completely, it's almost gone at the moment, I think. You go back maybe 40, 50 years ago, there was a fishing industry, but now it's completely gone. Have you any thoughts on that, or could that potentially be, if it turned around, could be a huge source of income for rural areas, not alone in West Clare, but especially along the west coast of Ireland? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I remember reading there only about a month ago in Quilty, there was approximately 116 fishermen. And at the time, there was some incidents off the coast of Mutton Island, and they asked for the British government, who were in rule at the time, to help them out. And there was rocks, and they were causing the ships to sink. And the British government helped them out and sustain fishing in the Mutton Island region. Now, there is approximately 3 fishermen in Quilty. So that's well and truly annihilated. But the policy was a trade agreement, and the trade agreement was that Ireland's fishery would go to Europe, and we'd get some money for that trade-off. But it's not very fair and not very trading very well for the fishermen. Also, too, just while we're on that one, look at the sugar beet industry. Absolutely wiped out Greencore, the Coveney family, the beautiful Coveney family, wiped that one out. And that's an example of something that was working very well. Everyone has sugar, but not us. We have bags of Irish sugar in the shop counters, but they're actually not Irish sugar inside in the bags. It's just a company brand. And we shipped out the infrastructure of that to France and Germany and North Africa. Why we did that? Just a deal done and hoodwinked the local Irish people into thinking this is a great move, which it was not.
Just a quick word about, we all know in rural Ireland, but we talk about Clare, where the election, the West Clare election, turf, cutting turf, has been done for generation after generation after generation to heat the homes. And is it last year, or I think it's last year, correct me if I'm wrong, this new directive, correct me again if I'm wrong, from the EU saying that you can't sell turf now. As far as I know, you can't buy it. I think you can still harvest your own if you have it. But it looks like, if you're reading between the lines, that in the next year or two, that even that will be outlawed. But this policy seems to be coming from the EU, Brussels will say. Back in 1973, Ireland joined what was known as the Common Market, which is the EEC, but I think after one of the treaties there, it became the EU. What are your thoughts, first of all, particularly on the turf, where it seems to be that in a year or two it will be actually illegal to them to burn turf? At the moment, I think you can't buy it. And the overall agenda seems to be coming, that anti-rural Ireland. Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here at home, we have our own turf and cut it every year. We get a cut every year. And we don't actually do the physical cutting, but we turn it and stack it and bring it home. And it's a great source of heat. We also use oil, I have to say, and we also use gas for cooking. It's a very convenient form of heat. Other than that, the policy seems to be the large scale turf producers have been shut down, Borden and Mona being the key name for that. And then they're squeezing the smaller producers. They did it another one in a clever way. If you go into the new farming scheme called acres, you cannot touch your turf supplies that you may have. And some farmers did not realize that when you entered acres, you can't cut your own turf if you take that payment. So it was a clever move. The sale of turf is going to be forbidden, but you can do your own for the time being. Don't worry. They'll get around to knocking that too. sometimes what the governments do is they inject slowly. They don't inject the large amount of change they want at any one given time. They do it gradually over time. Policy changes, a lot of media-driven images, and talk about this and that, to all coax you into change. And then when they have the change done, they celebrate and tell you that you're great, while your house is getting colder and colder, or left in the state they have to use electricity. And in Ireland, electricity, of course, is tied to the coal that comes in from Colombia, because our main supply of electricity is coming from coal and gas, two fuels that are a fossil fuel, but they're required, they have a benefit, and the planet, if anyone has a bit of knowledge in science, knows that the CO2 that goes into the air is required for the growth of plants, and they need it. Without CO2, you wouldn't have life. Now, they've predicted that CO2 is a negative thing, and you can't have CO2. But anyone that's is astute at all knows that a plant takes in CO2, and through the actions of photosynthesis releases oxygen. Very valuable commodity because we breathe it. So I think they're just getting at us bit by bit. And I think it's time for us to say enough is enough.
Yeah.
And
now, Joseph, just we do know, I think it was this week, the price of diesel and petrol is going up in oil. This is coming, I understand and believe, from the carbon tax, which is going to these increases. Every single political party, correct me if I'm wrong, in the Leinster House, the main parties in government, Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, and the Green Party, I believe Sinn Féin, I'm open to correction, and support the carbon tax as well, and maybe the other Social Democrats, Labour, etc. Again, the majority of the politicians, not alone in rural Ireland or rural Clare, they belong to parties who fully support this carbon tax, which means price of your petrol and your diesel and your home heating oil is going to go through the roof. That will increase the price of food because of transport, etc., etc. Do you think it's important as an independent that you stand, or what is your opinion against this carbon tax, that all the mainstream political parties, whether in government or in opposition, appear to support it, which will directly increase diesel and petrol, which will increase particularly food prices?
Well, it's just going to create, and obviously with all those things said, it's going to create inflation. When you tax oil, the commodity that's the liquid substance that moves everything in the world, when you increase that commodity's price, you increase everything. And with all the talk about bringing down inflation, everything they've been doing for the last while has been putting up inflation, i.e. the increase in VAT. They brought it down there for 6 months, then they put it back up again. They brought it down, they put in incentives into the market, financial incentives, which does not help the market get stabilized. With this fuel increase thing, what they're probably going to do is start giving more fuel allowance to some people. And I imagine mainly the elderly. And some of this is buying votes, in my view. When you give someone a house that's low on income and you give them money to heat their house, as in, we're very good for you, we're Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael and we're the Greens and we love you, so we're going to give you money this week. Now, there's no talk that they took the money from you when they taxed you. So they're giving you back your own money, but then in the emphasis on vote for us because we give you money. So because I've heard this comment quite a number of times on the doors that they like Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael because Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael gives them money back, but they're taking the money off you in the first instance. So it's going to put up the cost of living. It's going to make my job going around door to door more costly, more expensive, and it's twice a year to put it up. Usually in April, and they'll put it up again. I think it's around Halloween time. So it's twice a year to do it. And it's money they don't need. There's the money they're going to get and take off people. And it should be outlawed.
Yeah. Now, Joseph,